If you're under 60, retirement might look very different for you. Recently, I spoke with John. He's a successful guy who's done well in the tech industry, but after 25 years, he was starting to feel more and more burnt out. He wasn't enjoying work like he used to, and more than ever, he was contemplating retirement. But he felt like mentally he was ready to retire, but there were three big problems. Number one was not a problem, but you'll see why. He's young and he had two teenagers at home getting ready for college and all the expenses that come along with that. And then two, because he was young, he didn't want the traditional vision of what retirement is. He wanted to keep being productive. He wanted to be useful and really do that, but just not at the current pace that he was running at for so long. And then three, he was paying for retirement advice, but he didn't feel like he was getting much out of it, or he didn't think it was worth it. He actually tried an expensive firm where it was supposed to be all encompassing and do all the tax planning and income planning and investments and estate planning, but it just didn't seem valuable. And then he switched over to one of the bigger firms that had a low cost, 0.3, 0.4% per year fee, but it seemed like that wasn't enough. So we had a 30-minute call, and it helped him feel much better about what he was going to do next. And I'll share the steps that he took in this video. But first, here's what he told me. When I started out, I was doing work that I loved. I'm a designer, I'm creative, and that's what I got to spend most of my time doing. But then the company that I was at, it started as a startup, and then I grew with it and it started to get bigger and bigger. Now it's a massive corporation, and they wanted to keep moving me to the next level. Just as the company was growing, he kept moving up and up. So I began to manage more and more of the systems and the processes at the company. And then they moved me more and more into management of people. So now I'm spending 80% of my week managing people and then managing systems, and only 10 to 20% or less on what I actually love doing. And he said, I wish I could just go back to the thing that I enjoy the most. But that can't happen now because this big corporation, it's just completely different now. I really like the early days when it was a startup. And I said, it sounds like you're kind of like a 0 to 1 guy. And he said, exactly. And I'd like to keep doing that. And I told my wife about this. This is John talking. I told my wife about retirement. And she said, she kind of gave me a skeptical look and smiled and said, honey, this wouldn't be retirement for you. This is, if you were to do this, it's going to be more like a sabbatical because you're going to want to keep doing something and you're going to get into something else. And he says, you know what? She was right. So John and I, we focused a little bit more on the non-financial part of retirement, or his retirement or sabbatical. Then we got into the actual how-to, some of the numbers behind it. But the words that we arrived on when we were talking about the non-retirement things were fascinating and motivating. Those were the two words. John wants to keep spending time on the things that are fascinating and motivating to him. So I gave him a scenario of ending his current employment with this idea of maybe taking 6 months off. And I asked, if you were to take a period of time off, would it be hard to get back into the career or get into the industry that you're interested in if you took that time off? And he said, great point. As you know, these AI companies are moving extremely fast. And that's the area that I'm fascinated by. And I think this sabbatical time, that could be used as a time of study and learning and really getting into that and getting my knowledge increased even more in that area. And here's a side note for you. Keep thinking about and noting and writing down what are the areas or what are the things that you're fascinated by as you're thinking about your next stage or what retirement might look like for you. What are the things that you like learning about? Just remember to write those down and keep them. Keep that list. So John and I, we did a little bit more mapping out of these possible scenarios and what could be. Then we got down to the brass tacks and to see is this even possible when it comes to the numbers and college planning and all these things. So we switched to what does he need to do for the financial part and what does he need to get done to make this a reality. So here's what I recommended to him and what he actually works on with his current advisor. I said, model out the next 40 years as if you do retire and you never have another paycheck coming to you. If this is possible, it makes it so much easier to just be picky about what's next. So if you could do a plan and kind of see that you've seen the graphs before, if you don't have to rely on income and you could actually make this work, then you really get to, like I just said, be picky and choose the thing that's absolutely best for him. And then I said, if you can do that, then it allows you to choose your focus on what you're good at what you love doing, and what the world needs. And then the fourth metric, which is the economics part, or the money part, that becomes less of a driver. And if you can choose what you want to do where the economics part isn't even a important part anymore, that is just, it's a great place to be. Because you and I know that a lot of people, they make career decisions that's driven by the financial component. So it's just so freeing to not have that factor when you're making a vocational decision. Then the next step here for financial mapping is look at the model scenario where you actually get back into a company 6 months from now or whenever it is, where by working with them, it's something you're fascinated by and you're motivated by it. And you actually earn an income, say for another 5 years. You work for another 5 years or 10 years, whatever. You could look at the what if scenarios. How does that actually impact the plan? And the goal for him is to work because he wants to, not because he has to. And knowing that he could stop at any time, it's really a freeing feeling. And I think this concept of mini retirements is going to become more and more popular as we keep moving on into the future. You know, what it's looked like for us and for everybody up until this point is like, there's a period of time where you're getting educated and then you work for 40 years and then you retire forever. Maybe moving forward, it's going to be, you get educated, you work for 15, 20 years or some period of time. And then there's a mini retirement where you get re-educated and you gain mastery in another field or an emerging field that interests you. And then you go back to work for a period. And then maybe there's another mini retirement. I don't know if that's really what's going to happen, but it's just interesting. And this is how John was going to do it. That got him excited about what's next. And he's ready to move forward, and he's going to get even more detailed into the financial things. Now, if you like hearing other people's experiences like this, let me know by clicking the like button. And if you want to model out the financial part of your retirement, like John's going to do, and actually see some of the numbers, check out my favorite retirement calculator below. And remember, retirement isn't the end destination. There's a lot of life left to live and a lot to give and a lot to do. And when you have the financial freedom to pursue what's truly fascinating and motivating to you, that's when retirement becomes the most exciting chapter of life yet. Here's another video on how you can get one step closer to that retirement for you. Take care.